Hello my friends, it's Gabriel with The Last Huntsman Outdoors here. Now I have to give a special thanks to Demko Knives. They were nice enough to send me this. They actually sent me this and the Tanto version, and that is the Demko Free Reign. This one's an AUS 10 steel. We'll talk about that in a bit. And you know, I'm not a big blue guy. However, it actually looks pretty good with this knife. So this is the Demko Free Reign. This one's an AUS 10 steel. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, it's not the Magna Cut version. Here's the thing though, okay? While I think the Magna Cut is very nice, there's still no flies on AUS 10 steel. I know that Demko does a very good job with that steel. And I actually feel like this is actually a fairly priced knife. I've seen them kind of range from like right around 100 to 150 or so. If you can get one for right around, you know, the $100 to $120 range, that's actually a really good deal on this knife. It's a molded rubberized handle. The sheath is actually pretty nice. We'll get a little bit more into it, but it is kind of Demko's style of sheath. Sorry, I got mosquitoes buzzing me. So it's kind of that roughly right around 3/16 thick, and it's about that kind of classic 5-inch camp knife. Few that's kind of right around the same size. This is kind of more ultra premium. That's the Reef F5. Right around the same price, you have the Work Tough Gear Red Wolf, and for just a little bit more and about the same price as the Magna Cut version, there's the Schwarz Lost Trail. Let's get using this knife. Got a couple pieces of oak here, gonna do some batoning. High saber grind, it actually batons pretty good. Perfectly fine. I'm just gonna do some chopping. Now this is what I would consider a camp knife. It's right around 5-inch blade or so. It's not going to be like a heavy duty chopping knife for sure, but that handle actually lends itself to kind of giving it what I like to call that kind of Becker grip. We're just going to try it out here. Do a bit more chopping. This knife's actually performing a little better than I actually thought it would. High saber grind for the win, I guess. The wood I'm chopping into is oak. I'm gonna try the sharp spine on the Demko Free Reign here. I'm gonna try to get fire going just because the mosquitoes are absolutely terrible right now. Use that sharp spine and get me some fluff real quick. fat wood. Thus far, the spine seems pretty good. We'll try it with the ferro rod and try to get some curls with this. Now, something I've been fairly impressed with every Demko knife that I've gotten thus far is the fact that the edges out of the box are pretty good, honestly. Before this one, I had the Armiger 4 and the 80 20.5, both of which I really liked the edges. Now this thing could obviously do a lot finer feather sticks. I'm just not the best feather stick guy, to be totally honest. Just try to get a little fire going here. Get this little fire going just because mosquitoes are absolutely terrible right now. I live in central Missouri and I don't think I've seen the mosquitoes this bad for a long time. All right, another test I like to do with our knife reviews here is I like to just do that good old ninja death grip. Grab onto a knife and just start slicing. And this kind of does a couple things. One, I kind of see how good of a slicer it is. Two, I see if I get any kind of hot spots or anything like that. Now the wood I'm slicing is a piece of oak. Let me try a piece of cedar here. Yeah, you definitely tell a big difference in the two. As I said right off the bat, Demko knives, at least every model that I've gotten, has been very sharp out of the box, and I've been very impressed with the edges. I've gotten knives that's double and triple the price of this, and I honestly didn't feel that it had the best edge in the world. Ergonomics, honestly, I like the Ergonomics. One thing that I think would be very neat is if they made like another series of the Free Reign, but like a true full tang with just slab scales on there. That would be very nice. I like the shape of this handle. Now that being said, with the kind of rubber over molded handle, there's kind of some pros and cons to that. Obviously, you know, some people might argue that it might not be as durable for like long-term SHTF type of scenario, and I could kind of potentially see that. The tang is all the way through on this. One advantage to the rubber over molded type of handle that I've found is when it's cold out, the cold does not transfer to your hand much, and if you're like using it in just like a super wet environment, it works great for that. I actually, kind of a philosophy of use here, I think this would be like a great like water type of knife, or like if you're going out kayaking or canoeing, or gonna just be out on the lake or something like that. This would actually be a great knife for that, and that bright blue color would just kind of match the aesthetic really for it. Did pretty good on the slicing, and the ergonomics is pretty good too. All right, so next we'll talk about the sheath here. The sheath is Demko's patented design. You could take this whole sheath apart, which is pretty neat. I kind of like the overall style of it. The Armiger 4, the only complaint I had about it was a little bulky for the size of knife. However, for this size of knife, this sheath is not really that bulky at all, and I actually kind of like it. It has awesome retention, no rattle whatsoever, not coming out of there, and you could always flip this around over and make it a left-handed sheath. And one of my things that I really like about it is the way it's set up back here. I could easily unvelcro and snap that. Whoops, if I don't drop it. I can completely put this on without having to take my belt off, which is also pretty nice. I generally probably wouldn't hardly mess with the snap, but you can snap it too if you need to. Generally something with this good of retention though, I don't worry about the snap. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and try to do some cross grain batoning with this Demko Free Reign. Mind you, the wood I'm batoning here is oak. Holds up just fine. Another thing to consider with the Demko Free Reign, and this is something that I thought of right when I first seen this knife, is this would actually make a decent soldier combat type of knife. It indexes very well. It doesn't want to rotate in your hand at all, especially with that rubberized grip, but it even is fairly flat on the sides. Has a deep guard. Your hand's not going to slip up. Now, your command might complain about you carrying a bright blue knife, so if you were going to use this as like a soldier Minuteman type of knife, you might get the like green or black or gray versions. But let's just try this out. Stabs really good. Feels great under reverse ice pick grip. And even the sheath would work pretty good for like duty type of carry. So yeah, I actually think this would make a great soldier type of knife. And they even got it in like a Tanto version too, which I meant to bring out here with me to kind of show for the review. But I think I'm going to send it off to another YouTuber to try it out. And I'm just going to do some notches with the Demko Free Reign. And a little square notch there. Do kind of a tent stake. Got some cordage here. Like I said, the edges that they put on these Demkos are actually pretty nice. I'm fairly impressed with Demko knives. And even after all that use, it's still popping hair. And something about AUS 10 too is when it's done right, it's actually a fairly tough, durable steel. And I like it, at least, because even for my pocket knife, it's very easy to touch up the edge on AUS 10 steel. I can more often than not just hit it on my leather strop and it's good to go. All right, so I'm absolutely getting wrecked by mosquitoes and stuff, so I'm gonna kind of call this review short. I definitely want to come back to this knife. I'm probably going to do a kind of a part 2 longer term review. I think that's kind of how I'm going to start trying to do a lot of my videos these days, is I'm going to do kind of like an initial review and then come back to it and kind of do a longer term review. My overall thoughts, I really like this knife, especially for the money. I think for that, like right around the low hundreds range, I actually think it's a great knife. The sheath is pretty awesome. Honestly, I like the sheath more than I've had with some knives that are double the cost of this knife, quite frankly. The rubber over molded handles, I know some people can kind of take or leave that. I actually think it's kind of nice to have on some knives, and especially for certain uses, I think it's kind of nice to have. I would like to see Demko maybe eventually come out with a Free Reign like premium with like a full set of scales on this. I think I'll really like this design and shape, and I know a lot of people would really hype up the like Magna Cut and stuff, but I would even not only like to see it in like Magna Cut if they did that, but maybe even like A2 or 80 CRV or something like that, just for us crusty carbon type of guys too. I think that would be pretty awesome, kind of give people some different options. But so would I suggest the Demko Free Reign? Definitely. I like it. I think it would make a great just companion belt knife, and honestly, it just feels great in hand. So I'm gonna get it out of all these mosquitoes. They're driving me nuts out here. I've tried to do fire, bug spray, everything else, and they're still driving me nuts. So with all that being said, be prepared both physically and spiritually. God bless, and carry on.